Many people say this. America is drowning in debt. It owes China, it owes Japan, and one day it might go bankrupt and ordinary people get sold out. But is that true? Today, let's break this down. Who does the US government actually owe? How much does it owe? And what happens if it can't pay? Right now, US federal debt is $38 trillion, and the government pays $1.2 trillion in interest every year. How much is that? Let's make it concrete. America has about 330 million people, including kids, so $38 trillion is roughly $115,000 per person. A family of 4? That's $460,000 in debt. On paper. That sounds terrifying. It feels like a number no one can ever pay back. So let's stay with our usual rule. No fluff, no drama. Today, we go straight to the point. What government debt really is. You might think government borrowing works like personal loans. You take someone else's money, sign a big IOU, and if you can't pay it back, things get ugly. But if you think that way, you've already fallen into the biggest trap. Here's the truth. Government debt works almost the opposite of personal debt. When ordinary people borrow, the weak ask the strong for help. If we can't pay, we face real consequences. But when the US government borrows, it's the strongest player in the entire game. It doesn't just ask the market, it commands it. Think about it. China and Japan export huge amounts of goods to the US. They earn piles of US dollars. Could they just sell those dollars and exchange them back into their own currencies? Technically, yes. But in reality, they don't dare. Because there's a basic rule in economics. When you sell a lot of something, the price drops. If they dump dollars, the dollar weakens, their own currencies strengthen, and the moment their currencies rise, their export prices lose their edge. Middlemen stop buying. Orders collapse. Factories shut down. Millions lose jobs. For economies where exports are the lifeline, like China and Japan, that would be a disaster. So what do these countries do with all their dollars? Sure, they can buy some American products, but the rest? Can they invest it in other countries? Start new businesses? Build big projects overseas? Think about how messy that is. You need a team, a plan, management, risk control. And even then, profits are uncertain and slow. Now compare that to US Treasury bonds, government-backed IOUs, safe, predictable, around 3% interest a year, short-term, long-term. You can choose. Your money comes back on time. No drama. Suddenly, the boring US bond looks like the perfect investment. And here's the pattern you might notice. The countries that hold the most US IOUs are the same countries exporting the most goods to the US. Because when America borrows, it doesn't beg. It announces, I want to borrow, who offers the lowest rate, and countries compete, sometimes for just 0.1% difference. So, how much have they actually lent? According to the US Treasury's latest numbers, September 2025, Japan holds about $1.19 trillion. The UK holds around $0.87 trillion. China holds roughly $0.7 trillion. Add everyone together, about $9.25 trillion. And remember, total US government debt is $38 trillion. So, foreign debt? Only 24% of the whole thing. Even more interesting, when these bonds mature, countries rarely cash them all out, because if they did, they wouldn't know where to park the money next. So they roll it over, again and again. Here's the part people miss. This money never really lands. It floats inside the same global pool. It moves in circles. Once you're inside this system, you can't simply step out of the game. So here's the key question. If foreign debt is only 24%, why do some countries still collapse under debt? Let's compare two cases. Japan has the highest debt-to-GDP ratio in the world, about 230 to 250%. Meaning, for every $100 Japan earns, it owes around 250. The US, by comparison, owes about 123 for every 100 produced. So why hasn't Japan gone bankrupt? Because it owes the money to itself. Its debt is domestic. Now look at Argentina. The perfect contrast. Most of its debt is foreign debt, money borrowed from outside, money it couldn't repay. It has defaulted 9 times, and even today, it hasn't fully recovered. When a country collapses, ships get seized, prestige disappears. But the harsh reality is this: governments make mistakes, people pay the price. To keep its budget alive, Argentina printed money, a lot of it, and inflation exploded. The value of cash melted like ice. Your salary today could lose half its value in a month or two. Supermarkets changed prices daily. Life felt unstable and frightening. All right, let's come back to the debt. The other 76% of US debt is domestic, money owed inside the country. Now let's open the government's ledger and break it into 3 simple buckets. Bucket 1, public programs, pensions, trust funds, Medicare, Social Security. Together, they hold around $7.3 trillion, about 19% of all government debt. Bucket 2, individuals and companies, insurance firms, banks, investment funds, ordinary households. They hold around $17.1 trillion, about 45%. Bucket 3, the Federal Reserve, America's central bank. It holds about $4.6 trillion, roughly 12%. And how does the government borrow from them? The same way it borrows from other countries. It issues treasuries, IOUs, with different maturities. Let's break down the first bucket. Public programs. Officially, it's called the Federal Trust Fund, the pool that supports basic welfare and social benefits. People pay into it every year. The government manages it and allocates the money. This pool isn't fixed. It grows as workers contribute. And every year, part of federal tax revenue flows in as well. For decades, young workers paid far more than retirees withdrew. So the fund built up a massive surplus. By the end of 2024, the trust fund still held around $7 trillion in excess, a huge pile of idle money. Think of it as a huge idle cash pool, money that must not sit still by law. The government can't let that money sit there doing nothing. So what happens? Think of it as a magic trick. You put $1 in a box for your future. The government takes the dollar, spends it, and slips in a special IOU, a treasury only this box can hold. From the outside, the box looks full, but inside, it's not cash. It's promises. That's it. Meanwhile, the actual benefits, pensions, Medicare, Social Security, are paid from the new contributions coming in. And if there's ever a shortfall, a little bit of the old balance fills the gap. It flows smoothly, year after year. So this part of the debt, it isn't urgent. It's simply the government borrowing the trust fund's spare cash and paying interest on it. Nothing more dramatic than that. This pool does carry one long-term risk: healthcare. An aging population and rising medical costs push Medicare toward future deficits, but that's a separate system and not the core of today's debt structure. All right, back to government debt. Let's look at the biggest lender of all, individuals and companies. Whose money is this? Your surplus, your savings, whether it's in the bank, a mutual fund, an insurance plan, a private pension, or treasuries you bought directly. Another quiet cash reservoir, another pool the government can borrow from. Wherever your money goes, banks, insurers, asset managers, they all end up holding massive piles of idle cash, and they make money the same way everyone else does. They invest it, often by lending it to the government. And how do they lend? By buying treasuries. They hold the IOU. The government gets the cash. So the biggest lender? Ordinary people. Even if you never intended to lend money to the government, as long as you have savings, insurance, a retirement plan, or a fund, You think your savings sit quietly in the bank. But they don't. You're indirectly a creditor. And unless everyone withdraws at once, the government can keep using that money and simply pay interest on it. Another idle cash pool, another quiet reservoir in the system. And now the last lender, the Federal Reserve. The Fed is the master vault. It controls money creation and the entire US monetary system. We can't deposit there. We can't withdraw there. It's not a normal bank. So does the government walk in and hand the Fed an IOU for cash? No. By law, the Fed can't buy treasuries directly from the government. Here's what happens instead. Commercial banks also hold treasuries, but sometimes they run low on cash. So the Fed steps in with newly created money, yes, newly printed dollars, and buys those treasuries from the banks. The banks get fresh money. The Fed gets the IOU. This process has a name, QE, quantitative easing. If you want a full breakdown of how money printing works, we covered it in the previous video on inflation. You can check it out anytime. It's an indirect way for the Fed to become a major creditor of the government. And those new dollars? They flow into the economy. They push prices up, and ordinary people pay the cost. This is the loop you must understand. Without understanding this debt structure, you can't understand why the Fed raises interest rates. You can't read its data. So when we talk about government debt, the point isn't just the giant number, it's who the debt is owed to. Foreign or domestic, short-term or long-term, payable or rollable, and whether the whole system, this giant ongoing game, can keep turning. Only then can we see where the real risks actually are. So now that you've seen the map of national debt, does it feel a bit clearer? I'm Eris, and I take abstract economics, the terms, the metrics, the policies, and turn them into thinking models you can take away. Clear enough that even a kid could follow. Stay sharp. See you next time.